So the discussion for today is we're going to start off with transform property, maybe transform and transition. How to apply transform and transition property for elements in CSS. So for this, we'll start off with a basic web page, and we'll give the title for the web page as CSS transform and transition. And for this, I'm going to use an external style sheet test.css. So let me link that style sheet. So link the style sheet here test.css. First, we'll look at transform property. For this, I'll use a div, and I'll give a class for this div, say d1. So we'll go to the style sheet. We'll apply some styles for a division. So we'll access d1.d1 using the class name. We'll give a background color. Say I'll give the background color as blue, and we'll have some height and width for our division, 200 pixels, and width to be 200 pixels. Let me show you where the division occurs on the web page. And let me also position this, position it absolute from the top, say 100 pixels, and from the left, let me move it 100 pixels. So just positioning it so it's visible. So now let us apply transform. What is the use of transform? There are many values that transform can take. One is rotating the element, another one is scaling the element, another one is skewing, and the final one is translation. So we look at the use of all these things. So let's start with rotate. Say I want to rotate this 45 degrees, so I can use rotate, and you'll be able to see the difference. So you can use rotate for rotating the element along with transform. Say transform itself takes lot of values. We are just looking at a few subset. It's not all the values for transform. And again, when you talk about transform, it also deals with 3D transformations, which we are not focusing on. Only 2D transformations we are focusing. So you can rotate, you can change the degree, and you can rotate the element. So how you give that? Rotate, and then you give the degree and DEG. That is the syntax. So rotation we can apply. What next we can apply for this element using the same transform? We can use scale. Say scale is another transform value. You can give the number of times you want to scale this image. Say if I give 3, it scales this element 3 times its size, both horizontally and vertically. So you can use scale, and you can also give, you can also scale it only in the x-axis like this. Say if I give scale x, if I give scale x and then refresh it, you can see only the width gets scaled to 3 times its size. So you also have scale y. If you want to just scale the y-axis, if you want to just scale the height, then you can scale the height. So you can give a value, and you can use scale to scale the size of the image or the element. Transform also takes up another value, that is skew. So for skew, we are going to give the input in degrees. Say if I give 30 degrees and 20 degrees, let's see what will be the output when you skew. So by changing the degree input here, you'll be able to transform the output. So you can play with, just take these properties, give some input degrees, see how the transition or the transformation happens. Finally, we'll take a look at one more value that transform takes up, that is translation. Let's bring this division back to its original location. Now let's again apply transform. Now it's translate. We give some x and y pixels here, that is, say from the position where it is, move 200 pixels from the left, and also move 100 pixels from the top. So this is translate, and you'll be able to see the difference here. It translates. So what is that you're going to give here? From the left, how many pixels it should move? From the top, how many pixels it should move? Say if I give 200 pixels here, from the top it's going to move 200 pixels. So were you all able to follow translate? What is the use of translate? It is like moving an element from one position to another position. And you give negative values too for scaling, for translation, everywhere. For rotation also you can give negative values. Minus 360 degree, minus 2. What is minus 2? It will reduce the size 2 times the original size. You can also move these pixels. Minus 100 if I give, it's going to take this up. So when I give minus 100 here, it's going to take it up. So you can also play with the negative values for the transform property. So transform is a interesting property. Okay. Are you clear with transform? Now we'll move on to transition. This is the property we're going to see. Transition in CSS. What is the use of transition in CSS? So transition is various properties put together. Let's first start with this property transition, and then we'll say it's linear. We'll understand what is linear and what are the various values that transition takes up after demonstration. First, we'll see the demonstration. I have a division here. This is the example I'm taking. I have a division here. Now, when I move my cursor over this division, the width of the division should increase. There should be a transition from, say, 200 pixels to 600 pixels in width size. So, for this, we have a transition duration attached with that. Say, transition duration. I'll give the duration in seconds. So 4 seconds. You have to give 4 yes to say it's in seconds. Okay. Next important thing we have to work on is transition property. So what is the property that will change here on this element? That's the width. So you have to mention for which property we are applying the transition. So this is how you define a transition. And when this transition is going to work, when I hover my cursor over that element. So I give div, and then when I hover it, what should happen is width should change to, let's say, 500 pixels. So that's how you define a transition. First you say it's linear. You also have other options. We'll see that soon. The duration of the transition, and then what is the property that will be affected by this transition, and how this transition works. When I hover my cursor over the element, the width is going to increase. So let's refresh this and check what's the output. So you can see the transition duration was some 4 seconds, and then the width changed from whatever pixels, 200 pixels to 500 pixels. And when this effect came into place, when I hover my cursor over that element. So how you define all these things? You define using the properties given here. Let's take a look at one more thing. Transition delay. I say transition delay of 2 seconds. What is the meaning of transition delay here is when I move my cursor over the element, it will take 2 seconds for the transition to come into place. So there will be a delay of 2 seconds. Let me refresh this and let's take a look at this. Now for 2 seconds it waits and then the transition starts. So that is the meaning of transition delay. The transition linear, transition duration, transition property, transition delay. Okay. Here, actually, I tried that. We can give width, comma, height. I tried, but I'm not sure whether it's going to work here. Let me give height to be 500 pixels. So let's check whether this one works. Let's wait for 2 seconds. Yes, it's working. Okay, so we're able to understand transition property. Can we try transition property with transform? Say I want to rotate this when I move my cursor over the element. Can we perform that? So what is the property we are going to use here as transform? And when I hover my cursor over the element, what should happen is Let's transform and let's rotate. Let's say let's rotate it some 360 degrees. And let's remove this transition delay. Let's not have that. And the rotation can take up 10 seconds of duration, something like that. Now let's refresh this. When I move my cursor, you can see there's a rotation effect applied on the element. So you can work with any of the properties for the elements. I'm just giving an example here. You can also translate. When I move my cursor over that element, it will translate from one location to another location. So you have to use transform translate there. So that's about transition. And there's one more thing we have to understand. What is this linear and why we use linear? What are the other values that it can take up? That we'll see. So for this, I will take my transformation to the width. So it's easy for us to understand. And let's delete this. And what I'm going to do here is width to be, say, increase it to 500 pixels. We'll see the effect here. What happens when I hover my cursor? The width will increase to 500 pixels. It takes some 10 seconds. Now, when I say linear, what happens is you see the phase in which the transition occurs is stable throughout the transition. That is, the speed with which it occurs is stable throughout the transition. The same speed is followed from the start till the end. That is linear transition. When you talk about ease in, what it means is when the transition starts, it will be at a slower pace, and when it ends, it will be at a faster pace. So let's take a look at the property ease in. So when it starts, it will be at a very slow pace. Towards the end, it's going to pick up some speed. That is ease in. Likewise, you also have ease out. What is ease out? When it starts, it will be at a faster pace. Towards the end, it will slow down. Let's take a look at ease out. So ease out, let me refresh it. I'm not sure how far you're able to see that on the screen, but works that way. Say it starts at a faster pace, you see here, whereas while it ends, it's going to slow down at the end. That is ease out. You also have one more combination here, which is ease in out. You would have guessed the use of ease in out. What is that? It's a combination of both ease in and ease out. When it starts, it will be at a slower pace, then fix the normal speed, and then while it ends, it will be at a slower pace. So ease in and ease out in combination can be given as ease in out. Okay. Are you clear with transitions? Okay, now let's move on to the next concept, animations using CSS. So the next concept we are going to look at is animations using CSS. So we are going to look at this. Let's change the title to again for this animation. I'm going to use this division with a class D1. This division will take and we'll position this absolute top 100 pixels, left 100 pixels. We'll delete all the transition properties. Say I'm going to give an animation for this division. I will give the animation name. So we have to give an animation name for that. Let me delete this. Animation name. I'll call the animation name to be Satish. You can give any names. And then animation duration. How many seconds you want this animation to occur? Let me give 5 seconds like that. And what else you're going to give? Animation delay is there. Animation iteration count. I will say it's infinite. So what is animation iteration count? How many times this animation should repeat? Here I say infinite, so this animation will keep on repeating. So what is the animation? The animation I'm going to define here is a change of color. Initially it is in the blue color. At the end of the animation it will go to the red color, this element. So for this what we have to do is we have to define keyframes. So you give at keyframes and then you have to give the animation name here. The animation name is Satish And what two things we are going to define here is from this state move to the final state. So you have two things, from and to. In from, what we are going to do is we are going to give the initial style that this will have. So we are going to give the background color to be blue. So this is the initial styling for our div element. From this style, go to this style. What is that? Background color is red. That's it. So how you link this keyframe to this element? Through the animation name. Okay. Let's refresh this and see whether our animation really works. So now you see the transition happened from blue color to red color. There's one more way we can apply many such selectors within our keyframe, that is using the percentage. Let me tell you, when the animation is at 0%, you can give like this. You open close parenthesis. What should be the styling? I will say background color is blue. When it is at 0%, the background color is blue. Likewise, we can define the various percentages here. Let me replicate this. When the animation reaches 25% of the duration, you can apply a background color to be red. And when the animation reaches 50% of the duration, what you can do is you can apply a different style. Say background color is aqua. And finally, when the animation reaches say 75%, you can say, and you can also go with 100%, or else you can go with directly 100%, whatever it is. Let me give brown to be the color. So when the animation goes to 100%, let the color be brown. And here we'll increase the animation duration to 10 seconds. That's it. Let's refresh this. So you'll be able to see the transition between the various colors. So what is that we understand here? 0%, it should start with blue. When it reaches 25%, it should go to red, and then it should move to aqua. Finally, it should end up with brown. Okay. So you're able to see the changes in the color for the elements here. So this is another way of mentioning the styles that your element should take within your keyframe. Are you clear with these two different things? Okay, now let's move back. Let's take up some exercises. Let me solve some exercises here. So let's take up this division. What we'll do now is maybe we'll try to rotate this. We'll rotate this division and see. So how will you rotate? We'll use this from. What is the initial rotation that we are going to say is transform, rotate. You're going to have it in 0 degrees rotation. You're going to go to, you're going to rotate it. So it's transform, rotate 360 degrees. So it starts with 0 degrees and it rotates up till 360 degrees. The iteration count is infinite. So let's see what happens to our animation here. So it starts rotating. So it's going to be infinite number of rotations, and each animation is of 10 seconds in duration. And how you apply this? Using the transform rotate effect. Okay. Are you clear with this example? So we add this, right? Can we have two divisions rotating? Can I have another division rotating in the reverse direction? How to apply that? So we have to go to test.html, create another division here. So I'm going to create another division. I'll call this class to be D2. Save this. And what we'll do here is we'll come here. We have to apply some styles for our class 2. So let's copy this .d1 and we'll say this is .d2, and we'll give some color here. Let's say this color is red. Okay. absolute, and we have to define a separate keyframe now because it's going to rotate in the reverse direction when compared to this. Let's say the animation name is Satish 1. Animation duration is 10 seconds. Animation iteration count is infinite. Now we'll define keyframe Satish 1. Let me copy this, paste it here. Keyframe is Satish 1. Now it's not rotating. What I will do is I will just give minus 360 degree so that it rotates in the reverse. And let me refresh this, save this, refresh this. So you see you have built an animation here. You have two divisions rotating in a different directions. One is in the clockwise, another one is in the counterclockwise. So you can go with any kinds of animation here. I also did one more thing, that is put up another element and created a different pattern. Since I had a lot of time yesterday, did all these things. So we have another class D3. Let's take a look at this class D3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the D2 styling and then copy that. So this is going to be D3 dot D3, and the background color for this will be white. Height 200, width 200 pixels, top 100, left 100. Everything is going to be the same, and we'll not have any animations for this as such. It's just going to be there static. Okay. So now this became a different pattern, and you can convert that to a circle. You can convert that internal division with the white background to a circle. You can give border radius to be 50%, and then you'll see it became a circle now. And you can also give border 2 pixels solid blue, something like that. So you have an animation created. See, you can ask me a question, why we should use CSS for animation? We can use Flash, we can create videos. Should we really explore CSS for our animations? See, the advice here is if you have very simple animations in your web page, you can go with CSS directly rather than making your website slow down by using all the Flash videos and other libraries that will take time to load if your animations are very simple. But my point of view is you can also create complex animations if you spend more time in CSS, because you can do everything from translation to transformation. Everything is possible. Okay, there's one more example I want to give here. That is, all these elements are placed in separate places on the web page. Once when the animation starts, they should come together. So it's translation. How will you get translation in animations? So let's place all these elements in separate places. So how will I start this is, I will start with my first element. It's positioned from the top 100 pixels. From the left, I'll place it somewhere around 10 pixels. Let me comment all these keyframes for now. Edit, toggle, comment. So let's refresh this. So I'm placing this blue color division left 10 pixels from the top 100 pixels. Let me place this red color division, that is D2, from the left 400 pixels from the top 100 pixels. So this is how it is placed. You'll see that. I'm just moving things apart. And then this circle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it from the top 500 pixels and from the left 200 pixels. Let's see. Now what should happen when the animation starts? Everything should come together in that place. So this is what we have. What is that we have to do is we have to just bring these things together. For this, I'll use the percentage selector. When it is 0%, where it is. When it is 0%, where exactly our elements are. This is from the left, it is 10 pixels. And from the top, it is 100 pixels. This is where it is when the animation starts. When it goes to 100%, where it should be. It should go to left 200 pixels and from the top 100 pixels. So you have to give a semicolon here, and from the top 100 pixels. So always give semicolon. I made some mistakes. So 10 pixels, semicolon, 100 pixels. So what it means is this is where it is initially during the start. At the end of the animation, it should go to 100% in this location. Likewise, Satish 1 also we can change. What we are going to give here is, we'll copy this, we'll give it here. So where is this element, this red color element, where it is? It is from the left 400 pixels and from the top 100 pixels, where it should move to the left 200 pixels and top 100 pixels. Finally, you have one more element that should move. This is the difference here. You should move this element to this place. So for that, what we have to do is we have to define some animations for D3. So how will you define? Say its animation name we have to give. I'll give Satish 2, and animation duration. Let's say the animation duration is 10 seconds, and animation iteration count. Iteration count can be infinite. So this we have defined, and we have to define the keyframes for this circle. So when it is at 0%, it is from the left 200 pixels and from the top 500 pixels. While the animation ends, where it should be from the left 200 pixels and the top 100 pixels. So we define keyframes for each of the elements to translate. We define that Satish 1 and Satish 2. Let's push this. Yeah, now it's working fine. It's just a translation effect. That's it. And you have defined that. See, now still there is one issue here. It's not rotating. One of the elements should rotate, right? That effect is not there. So how you can rotate this? You go to keyframe Satish 1. This is the red color element. So when it comes to 100%, we can say transform, and then rotate. We can rotate it by 45 degrees, so that at the end it rotates, and we'll see the difference now. So when the animation ends, it's going to rotate, and then we'll be getting that final image we had earlier. Okay, so this is going to repeat again and again. So that's about an introduction to animations in CSS. Just a very small introduction to animations. But this introduction is a very powerful introduction. Why I say so is, every animation you're going to build is built upon these fundamentals. Transformation. So you can rotate, you can skew, you can scale, you can translate. Transitions, and also keyframes. You should never forget keyframes with respect to animations. What are very important with keyframes? The name should be mapped to that element. You've seen what issues we get when we don't map the correct name to the elements, we don't use it properly. Can you create an animation for birthday wishes, wherein you have some text, you have some rotations, you have some star kind of shapes that come in and go, something like that? Can you perform that? Can you take it up as an exercise?